transitioning, which will kind of follow the same route as the standing transitioning from one technique to another. It says here I'll go from 9 to 10, 10, 15. I'm not going to stop at 10, 10, 10, and 15 seconds. I'm going to go to 10:30, and we take a 5-minute break, then Byron will have the rest of the time until 12:15 when we bow out. So just to be aware of that. So are there any questions up until this point where you're okay? Okay. And I just want to deal with one issue real quick. The reason we're doing transitioning is because sometimes stuff doesn't work and you've got to go to something else fast. The other side of the art, and so you can go through it, and there are some systems that, and I'm not going to figure out Don's on the roof, but they will go from one submission to another one to, they'll go half a dozen or a dozen. And to the uneducated person, that may seem, well, that's really ridiculous. Why do they have to go through all of this? And the other side of the coin is that is done so that you know if you have a hand, there are a series of different things you can do if one thing doesn't work. On the street, the reality is that whatever technique you want to do is not to pin the, well, if you hit the judo pins, you got pins. That's something else. Submission, nice. But even the submissions we do in jiu-jitsu are different from the ones that are done in jiu-jitsu competition for the Olympics. Okay, they do not allow a lot of things we do. They're done different, like an arm bar is done different. Figure for arm lock is done. Arm bar is done differently. A lot of other submissions are done differently to protect the competitors, because they're kind of steamed up at the moment because they want to win the gold medal. But the reality is, as far as we are concerned, is when you do that technique, the goal is to injure the person to the extent where they cannot continue the attack. So you're not going to do a wrist press until they tap out. Because what do you do after they tap out? Let them go? No, what it should do is break the wrist. And a broken wrist can be a fairly serious injury. Okay, it's probably one of the most painful fractures going. My wife broke her wrist 8-10 weeks ago now. It is still sore, it still aches. When it was in the cast, it ached and hurt all 6 weeks. And the doctor said, that's normal. Okay, the cast is off, the wrist is still swollen, it's going to take a couple, 3 months to go down. That's normal. Okay, it's a serious injury. So in any case, so let me start. I'm going to borrow Thomas, and we're going to start off. And I don't care whether you do the throw or start off with your partner on the ground. That really is kind of irrelevant to me. We're going to start this way, so that take you down and you're going to land. And that's okay. Good. That's where I want it. Okay. Now, in our sequence, the first thing we've got the hand. Okay. Now, again, the rule from the standing is if you've got an extremity, don't let go of it. Because on the ground, the first thing he does, if he has a chance, is he's going to get away from you. Which is, as long as he wants to run away, that's fine. Okay. Okay. So the first thing we're going to have you do is turn you around a little bit. This way. Okay. Is we're going to, first one we teach even our white belts, is we're going to come in, the foot is under the armpit. You can kick in with a fairly good amount of force. It's not going to injure the person, just makes a loud thud. Okay. Elbows inside the knee joint. Hand is down. This one's back about 45 degrees. And all you're going to do is push down and turn. And basically, you're doing your hand throw all over again. Okay. It should snap the wrist, possibly dislocate the elbow. Okay. You don't think that's going to work. Okay, now, I'm going to go through a sequence here, and I think Michael calls it the Simon method. We're going to have you, I don't know what the Simon method is, but from one to another, add another. You keep adding things. We're going to have you start out with this. I'm going to give you 3. We're going to have you go from here to a wrist press. Okay? This is, by the way, this is really cool for frustrating MMA students. If they want to work with you on the mat. I've had this happen at college. You can turn off for a second. I've had this happen at college. Yeah, you come down and you simulate pushing down on the back of the hand. Okay, not the fingers. Okay, that's the second one. If that doesn't work, okay, the next sequence we're going to have you do is you're going to turn in, putting your left knee down on their upper arm, okay, and you can either do it from this side or from this side. I prefer this way because I can keep an eye on his feet. If I come, I have to switch, if I come this way, I can't see what his arms or his feet are doing, okay? And if he has a really loose body, he will take his left leg up, bring it around, and I go back down, okay? But in either case, you're going to come down with this knee on his arm, okay? You can drop on it with either leg, okay? There's a nerve here. He is going to feel like he's broken his arm. It will not break his arm, okay? Because his arm, the bone's on the ground. I mean, there's just not, the likelihood of breaking the arm is pretty minimal. But it's going to hurt like he broke his arm, okay? Again, your intent is not to get a submission out of him, but to decommission him, okay? So those are the three I want you to do. You're going to start out here, 1, 2, and then shift. And I don't want to do this to them. I can put the pressure on him, but I can't control my weight on him with my left leg. Okay. Knee replacement, so I can't bend it as much as I'd like to. Okay, any questions? Okay, good, let's go. Okay, hey Barbara, or Thomas. Okay, Thomas is going to be on the ground, so okay. Each knee, san. Okay, chi, we're going to, what are we going to do for chi? We're going to, oh, let's roll you over, that's good. Okay, chi, we're going to come up, okay, and we're going to go, do not step over his head because you can get a love tap someplace, okay. All you have to do is hold his hand. And as you turn around his head, you're going to have his fingers consistently facing away from you, and that should roll him over. If he doesn't roll over, all you have to do is pull. Okay, now he's on his stomach. Okay. So that's each knee san, chi. Okay, go is just to take this toward, pushing down slightly, and take it towards his head. Okay, now, for his initial comfort and for your safety, you want to encourage him to turn his head and look the other way. Okay. The reason being, and Leo should know the reason. What's the reason you have to turn the head the other way?
So that, I don't know.
We talked about that.
Because he's pressed to the ground further.
What?
He's pressed to the ground far, he's down further.
Okay, if you look at him now, what parts of his upper body are touching the ground?
Just the tip of his shoulder.
Which shoulder?
The left shoulder.
The left shoulder. Okay, now if he turns his head the other way,
Then you get him more
he's here,
flat.
and it's easier to get this down to the ground, because the next thing you're going to do, okay, which is ichi, san, chi, go, is going to be you just bring this down, web just above the elbow. There's a nerve there, the whole place, and all you're going to do is do, again, another wrist press. You can raise this up towards his head, get a submission. Okay? And another one after that, with each knee, san, chi, go, and rook, you would put your left knee about on his arm.
Let's try some.
Okay? So, show the sequence again. Each, see, you can actually combine knee and san. Knee, that's even nicer.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. San. Yeah, we put knee and san together.
Oh, knee,
Okay, san. Chi, towards his head. Turn your head, sir. Thank you. Always be polite. Okay. Chi. Okay, and then go would be the knee on the upper arm. Okay? So we've gone from 3 to 5. Okay, let's see what you do with it. Let me borrow Peter. Okay, and we're gonna have Peter lie down. Now, as I said before, on the street, I really don't like to go through more than 2 or 3 of these, because if you haven't taken, if you get to the third thing that you have to do, I would break and just get back into a ready position. It's like if you lose doing a technique on the person and you lose them, and then when they're on the ground, your safest thing to do is to retreat a couple steps into a ready position.
Right.
Okay, rather than trying to get down there and get something. If you lose your attacker, you have lost him, because he's not going to like you go, oh, here's my arm again.
Okay.
Okay.
Capture.
Okay, we're here. Okay, we're here. We're here. We do this. Okay, we turn him over. Okay, turn your head the other way. Thank you, sir. We did the wrist press again. We dropped this down. Did a wrist press for the arm pin. Okay, now from here, what I want you to do, you can do 2 different things here. You can step over, okay, and come down on his arm. Okay, you can turn your head the other way, just for your own safety. You can. I'm just going to sit on his shoulder. Okay, you do not want to sit across his back. Okay, sit on his shoulder. Put one leg under. Okay, and now I'm set. I can do a wrist lock. Okay.
Yeah, he's there. He can't do nothing from there.
Okay. Now, the reason you do not sit on his back, or the center of his back, or further over, is if he has half a brain and is strong, because your weight is over here, all he has to do is roll, and you will go over. Okay. Now, if he does, this is the fun part. Okay. If I'm not going to set this up because I value Peter, and he has to fly back, and if he doesn't have 2 wings, they won't let him on the runway. Okay. The nice thing is, because whatever this foot is down here. Okay. If he is able to roll over, take me over. Okay. Okay. You're set for an over. That's the advantage of having the knee underneath. Now I'm set. Okay, so we're going to have you do this part. Oh, that's his last. Okay, great. Now, arm bar. Okay. Usually it works pulling into the right. For some people, you may have to go. The problem is, if you go to the left, it can get out of the hole. So you go to the right. If he starts to squirm around, okay, again, you do this fast, it just dislocates the elbow, you get out. If you think he's going to give you problems, you can take your right foot and smash him a couple of times and go back to the arm bar. Okay, this leg should be able to hold the person down to some extent. Okay. I am unfortunately not perpendicular to him, which is where I should be. But on the street, that doesn't always happen. Okay. So we want you to go into the arm bar. If nothing has worked yet, if you're pretty committed at this point, okay, you can come in, you can try kicking his face, which is a really small target at this point. You can go to Kitsugo, which at this point would have you grab 2 fingers on each and simply grip. Okay, and that should take care of his problem. Okay, then he can wear a special glove with 3 fingers, and he can be on the spot, live long and prosper. Anyway, so I want you to go through the sequence, including okay, and then you don't have to do anything else. Unfortunately, it will leave some blood on you. Okay? Oops, there we go. Okay. So I want you to have that leg under. I want you to roll you over because you weren't successful on the 6th or 7th thing you did. Okay? And I want you to just don't fight it. Okay? The worst thing you can do when you're doing submissions is to fight the person. If you have a good command of your submission holds, and most of them are pretty much the same as standing, like hand lock, arm bar can go into figure 4 lock. If you know these things and you know how his arm is moving or extremity is moving, just go with it and go into an appropriate lock or pin or hold. Okay? It's much more efficient than trying to fight the person. Unfortunately, if you're both on your back like here, you really don't have too many choices. And that's the downside of pins to some extent. Pins can be very, unless they're set quickly and properly, pins can be, and submissions even, to some extent, can be reversed. Okay? If you put the wrist down fast and break it, you're done. You're not worried about pinning the person. Okay, so get the part, let's try this. Try this a couple, 3 times. The last part is fun. You get to take a ride. I'm going to borrow Peter again. Okay. We're going to, and we're going to have you second. We're going to start out with a wrist lock takedown. Okay. And wrist lock takedown, again, is easiest to do if you can keep yourself parallel to the shoulder. And what on green belt testing, what I look for is, surprisingly, can this person sidestep? If they can sidestep, the technique is easy. Okay? Because if you start walking like this, you know, if you one foot in front of the other, you don't have any strength here. If I sidestep, okay, I can continue to stay parallel with it. Okay, so we've got this wrist lock takedown. Okay, we're going to start here. He does not want to go down. Okay, what are my choices? Okay, I can kick him. I can kick him. Okay, I can roll his elbow. Okay, and even if his arm is straight, okay, I can roll his elbow. Okay, I can smash down on his elbow. That may be end the technique right there, because it may dislocate his elbow. So we're going to get him on the ground, down the ground. Okay. We need to back up. Let's back up. We're going to open the cabinet door. We're seeing 6 feet in there. No. Lie down. Okay. Okay. This is where we're starting out. We're here. Okay. From here, again, we're going to go back to previously. We're going to take this up. Okay, that's knee. Each knee. San is going to be to either roll this, or you can put your knee here. Okay, and you know, you can go the other way. What I'm going to do this time is, rather than that, is I'm going to have his elbow bent, and I'm simply going to slide his forearm in. Okay, here. Okay. And I push down with both hands. When you push down, it raises the forearm up. Okay, if you turn this way a little bit. No, don't go on your side. Just roll towards me a little bit. No, flat. Okay. From here, okay. What I'm going to do next is a forward roll. Okay, in that direction.
Not for real.
You're okay. Don't worry. There's a real important safety factor here. Okay, turning that the other way. When I do this forward roll, I have to take my arm out in practice, because otherwise it will dislocate and separate the shoulder. Okay? But that's number 4. Okay? And it's over with at that point. Okay? So all I would do is I would be here, okay, and take my hand out for his protection, and I'm simply going to do a forward roll. Okay? Over him. Ideally in this direction, 45 degrees. And that should take out a shoulder. Okay? That's Budoshin, that's not Tsugo.
Right, and would you call that a sacrifice roll that you have to do?
Oh, it's not a sacrifice roll because he's down,
Right.
You're down already. Sacrifice is only, any sacrifice technique is where you do the technique, opponent is standing, you're on the ground. Okay? Sutemi Waza, doing technique from a sitting position, or in a chair, would all be sacrifice throws, because you don't have the mobility that he has. Okay?
So you're saying sacrifices, you end up with Uke standing and you're down?
No, you start off.
You start off.
Right.
Okay.
He may be down. If you're both down on the ground, there's no sacrificing. Okay?
But if you both stand.
If you're both standing,
and you take them down, you both end up down, that's not a
not
sacrifice?
sacrificing
What's
you.
that?
The Tomonagi is a
Tomonagi is a sacrifice because you're going down on the ground before he is.
Okay.
Okay? Because all he had to get out of Tomonagi, all he has to do is sidestep. Whoop, you're in trouble. Okay? Yeah, so Tomonagi is a sacrifice throw. If you do Ukiyotoshi and you end up on the ground and he's still standing, that has all of a sudden become a sacrifice throw. Okay, and you've got to be able to do something else to get him down there too. Okay, so I want you to try this. Okay, it's just a forward roll, but make sure you take your forearm out because Uke will not be happy with you. Okay. Yes, sir.
show me that.
Yeah, before just a Mayukimi.
Oh,
You're just doing a Mayukimi in this direction, 45 degrees. Yeah,
Since
so you you just take your arm out, and when people get good at this, they take their arm out as they're doing the yukimi.
You want to show it?
No. You're down. He's down on the ground. Now roll him over here. Okay, I've got him here. I have him on fist. Okay, I'm going to do a roll in that direction. Okay, but all I would do is take your hand out and undo my yukimi. That's all it is. But your hand stays there while they're taking. Okay. And because his arm is in your elbow, if it was on your arm, you run the risk of breaking your arm. But if it's in your elbow, you're safe because now your whole body is behind that, and the elbow can give for you. His forearm is not going to give. Okay. So I want you to try it, but make sure you slip your arm out, your forearm out. Okay. And the guy who is on the ground, don't try and move your arm. Okay. Because Tori is the one that has to protect you here. Okay. Very good. Let's see what happens. Okay. Gonna go from there. I'm gonna borrow Peter again. Okay. We're gonna stand. We've done this. Lie down the other. Your head in that direction. Feet over. Okay. Come this way a little bit. Okay. Poor guy. This is a really complicated. The throw is easy for me. It's the landing that's difficult for him. Okay, you've done a throw. You're down here. Okay, and this is an easy one to do. Let's say you want to go into an arm bar. Okay, and we're not going to do this arm bar this side. We're going to come and do the arm bar this way. Okay, now this is a relatively easy arm bar. What you have to do. And if you have judo training, I am in the wrong position. Okay, what's wrong with my position?
He can grab you
Why can he grab me?
because you're close enough. You're perpendicular to him. You need to be up above.
I'm perpendicular, which is good, but you're right, I'm too close to him. Okay, I'm sitting up, and the more I sit up, the better target my head makes. Okay, so yeah, and he can. And I'm not doing anything with his arm bar. Okay, now. So, what you want to do is really get yourself down low so you can rest your head on his chest. If you can rest your head on his chest, you're in a good position. Okay? If you don't want to fight clean on the arm bar, you can come down and grab fingers. And then if he tries anything, and if you do this, if he tries anything, you're doing this because you don't want to dislocate his elbow, which is a lot more work than bending his fingers back. Okay? So this is the simple stuff. Okay, he may bend his arm. Okay, oh my God, he bent his arm. I've got to get this back. This is not going to work. If he wants to bend his arm, you're going to let him bend his arm and roll over, and you end up with a shoulder roll. Okay, now this is not going to work on its own. You've got to move your, you've got to shift your hips. Okay? You've got to get the back of his hand on the ground over. Okay. now I can pull this into me and turn it towards me. Okay. Now, he's still giving me resistance.
No.
You aren't?
No, it's just, it's stiff.
He's just
It
he's
hurts.
still. Okay. If you sense you're getting resistance here, it's really easy to go back to the arm bar. Okay. So if you get resistance, or he's stiff, okay, just go back to the arm bar, because that's where he wants to go.
Is this to keep control of him? Or
This is, the purpose of the arm bar ideally is to dislocate the elbow. And that's what you should do. Unfortunately, in judo, they don't want you to dislocate the elbow. Because it's supposed to be a pin, and you're supposed to demonstrate control over this person. Okay? And so actually, if I recall right from the Olympics, what they require you is what we will do is we will block just above the elbow, so you can hyperextend the elbow. What they will do is go right below the elbow, so there's no pressure on the elbow, goes in out. And I can do this, and I will probably still get a submission out of him, but I'm not endangering his elbow. Okay, we'll set it a little higher. Okay, if he bends his arm, you bend, turn in, lean over, pull this towards you. Okay, if you sense it's tight, just switch back. And just look at his elbow. But again, this is a pin more than a submission. I think the older I get, the more down I get on judo pins. Okay. Okay, now, if you go to this and you want to make this a little more difficult, and this is easier for people who have long legs. So Leo and I are at a distinct disadvantage on this next move here. Okay, I'm going to go from here, I'm going to hold this here, go around his head. Okay, and I'm going to try and say, I can't do this because my legs are too short. I have to get up too high to get this up here. Okay, and now I've got an arm bar set. To set the arm bar properly, you want to bring this foot over to support it. Because now he's in serious trouble. Okay, and I'm going to make you go through this sequence. I'm going to have to do it again before. If by 7, you okay? If by 7 he manages to bend his arm, bend your arm. Okay, now he can bend. Can he bend it anymore? If he bends his arm, you let him bend it, and then you take your arm out. Then you simply straighten your arm. And it's a shoulder lock. It'll take out his shoulder, it'll take out his elbow. Okay? That's the see. I mean,
You mean straighten your leg, right?
you straighten your leg. What did I say?
Arm.
Yeah, you straighten your leg out. And if the hand is caught in there and it's bent, something has to be, and your leg muscles are stronger than his arm muscles. So you're going to come in, start with this, okay? He's going to want to bend his arm, let him bend it, shift, calm down, lean on his upper arm, bring this into you. If you sense resistance, just straighten it out, come back, shift to this, scoot up, put this under here, okay? Secure it for a moment. If a person has tight arms, just do this very carefully, because you have got tremendous leverage at this point. Okay. If I straighten this leg out, his arm is going to go. If he wants to bend his arm, let him bend his arm. Okay, that's cool. Okay. And then all I have to do now is I straighten my leg. Okay. Get on. Put this over and straighten. Okay. And you should be done. You can this is not clean in judo. You can also hit him a few times. Go for the nose, not the forehead. Okay. Any questions? Okay, let's see what happens. You've got the arm across one leg and then under the other. That is essentially setting up the figure 4. Okay. And although we're not doing figure 4 locks per se, the way to determine if you have a figure 4 lock is you look at the person's extremity, how it lines up with your extremities, and you should be able to get pretty close to a figure 4, one way or the other, there. And if you have that, it's a legitimate lock, no matter what anyone says. Okay. We want to go, let me borrow Thomas again. And we're going to go, just lie down here. We threw the person and they're down and you're grabbing the coat jacket, etc. Okay. We want to go through a series of chokes. Okay. The quickest one is actually a strangle. The difference between a strangle and a choke is the choke cuts off air, strangle cuts off blood, or it goes for a nerve. Okay. Choke, if you can keep yourself calm, you're good for about 20-30 seconds. Okay. If someone is strangling you, you've got anywhere from 0 to about 5 seconds. Okay. If they know what they're doing, the strangle is going to put you out real fast. If a person chokes you until you faint, that does not mean you're dead. That's one of the neat things in the movies. They choke the person blacks out, they let go of them, they're dead. Okay, and that doesn't happen in the real world. Okay, you choke a person out, and they faint, and you let go of them. They're still, the system still works. They'll come back. Okay, but as an instructor, I've always followed a policy, and I've seen some really weird things, stupid things by some instructors. And there's nothing wrong with compo or resuscitation techniques, but if you have a student that is out for more than a few seconds, the first thing you need to do is have someone call 911, because if the compo techniques work or you can resuscitate them, that is fantastic. If it doesn't work, you have wasted valuable time, and it's not worth the money. Okay, but anyway, so just be aware of that. Anyway, we're going to start off with something simple. Okay, we're here. We're holding his lapel. All I want you to do is going to be cross lapel. Take your thumb to the other side of the larynx, and all I'm going to do, I'm not going to push down on my thumb. All I'm going to do is pull up on one side. Okay, that's easy. And he's got a good pulse. Okay, you're here, just put it across and go up. Okay, that's one. Okay, the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this puppy up. Okay, I'm going to pull him up and I'm going to bring him around it. Let's turn it around this way. Okay, from here to here. Okay, now, again, this is not as good a strangle, but it's still a strangle. Okay. And all I'm going to do is, I only have to pull one of these. Okay. If you pull both, it's nicer. Okay. This is a nice submission. Okay. If you want, I'm going to turn my hand here. Okay. If you want to, from here, we're going to have you go from here. You take your left foot right around. Okay. From here. Now this is going to work its way into a nice judo submission. Okay, we're here, and then from here, I need to turn my lips. I don't want to damage the cabinet when my head is it. Okay. Okay. From here, all I'm going to do is go back. Okay. Trap. Okay. If you sense you're going to get resistance at this point, you take your right heel and give him a couple of love taps, and then you reset it, and you're done. Okay. Now, the downside of this is you can hold a person here for a relatively long period of time. If he has friends, you're in deep trouble. Also, you're under him. Okay. So again, it's a nice submission, but on the street, it's pretty dangerous. What?
He was turning purple.
Was that?
Nice.
So you have him lie down. You're here. Okay, there are other things we can go to from here. If I don't want to go to pulling him up, I can simply shift my body. I'll show you this one too, then you can do both of them. I'm going to shift my body around. This, again, is another pin. See, the problem with chokes, strangles, you can put a person out fairly fast and you can get up. When you go into a pin on a choke, you're usually stuck on the ground for a while. Okay. If you're going to want to pin him, you're still holding on here. You cross your forearms so that both forearms are under his chin. That way he can't move his head. And I'm going to lie down. All my body weight is going to be into his neck. I'm going to lie down with his face in my chest. Okay? And then you just completely relax. Okay? The only part of his body that you are controlling is his head. But that's all you need. Because his head has to deal with all of your weight. And as long as you stay completely relaxed, he is stuck. Okay? And you will probably have him out from a choke, because it's not a strangle, it's a choke. You will probably have him out from the choke before he gets anything effective going, which you wouldn't be able to do anyway. If you can stay relaxed. If he has no friends. Okay, but it's a nice pin. Ukes do not like it, especially if you've been working out for a long time, because they get your sweaty chest in their face. And that's disgusting. Okay? So you may want to do the first one. Whatever you're going to be here, cross choke, bring him up, turn him around a little bit, swiftly around. Here, bring this around, trap. Okay, go back, trap. Okay, now I'm not, for the sake of the technique, I'm not choking or strangling him. Okay, on the street, you really hold this tight as you're going back, and you have a good chance. By the time you get back here, he will be out, because it's still a strangle. Okay, and it's going to be a really tight strangle by the time you tighten up the noose, so to speak. Okay, so we're going to try it. Okay? Okay. We're going to take a kick. Okay. Kicks, and we're going to use kicks you have to block hard. And you have to use a good deflecting block. Blocking a kick straight on is, it can be done. It'll hurt that for what's smarts, but it's going to smart you too. Okay. And if you're going to block it with any kick, the higher up you can block the kick, the less effort you're going to have to use, because the less power he has. Okay. And if you can block the kick as it's coming up just above the kneecap, you basically killed the kick, because until this leg passes perpendicular, it has no power. And the further it goes, the more power it has. It's the same as if someone hits. Here, he's got a lot more power, and if I block him before it becomes parallel to his shoulder. And if you get a good block before it comes to the shoulder, the block itself can knock the person backwards. Okay. Okay, we're not worried about blocking. We're going to do kicks. He's going to come in with a kick. Excuse me. Front snap. That's good. Okay. We're going to block it out. Okay. Now, we're going to start off easy. We're going to do it. How much time we have? Okay. We're going to have you simply raise this up and go backwards, and he's going to go down. Now, and I want you to stay with it, okay, rather than lose him. So you may have to hold on his pants or something. Okay, from here, we're going to give you a series of things you can do. Okay. Number one, this is why you step in. You want your foot to be right by his knee joint, because that gives a lot of significant things that you can do. One, you can just drop in this way. Okay. And he needed that. Okay. Well, two, okay. You don't want to do that. Okay. You can either drop your knee down on the inside here, or you can take your heel and place it there. Okay. I have not stretched his leg yet. Okay, that's number three.
That's what you think.
Okay. No, I really haven't, because
I know.
you can really stretch a person's leg, and it's gonna do some serious damage. Okay, so we're just gonna have you work that sequence for, also, if you step forward, you can simply drop down on him sideways. Okay. Dropping into the stomach hurts, if you can drop into the xiphoid process, the potential for serious injury, just so that you're aware of that. Okay. If you drop onto the sternum and crack the sternum, it's a very minor injury. Hurts like hell every time you breathe. And they take you to the hospital, they x-ray you, and they may wrap you or they may not. And they'll send you home and say, try not to move for 4 weeks.
And don't cough.
And don't cough about anything. I mean, don't, you know, it's because there's nothing they can really do to keep that. Every time you breathe, it's gonna. I did that to one of my black belts many decades ago, accidentally. He resisted. He was familiar with the technique. I was demonstrating for a class, and he decided he wanted to resist and counter me, and I lost my balance. Now my knee was in his sternum already. All that weight just went there, and here this crack. And the paramedics came, and they carefully moved him away. I went down to St. Joseph's afterward and saw him. They x-rayed and taped him, and they said, go home, don't breathe. This is back in the 60s, and it's, so what I want you to do is you're going to trap this, stay on the inside, and you're going to go with him so that you end up, get his foot in that position. You can drop your knee down, drop it down here, take your heel, and start a stretch. Okay? And when we get time to go on here, I may be able to do a figure 4 from this position. Okay. I'll see if it works. Okay, let's go. What?
That'd be good.
Even though you think they're wrong, even though because if they mess up, then you go after them rather than, God, I was stupid. It's much nicer to be able to say, well, I did what I was told to do and I got hurt, therefore. Okay, we're going to try one more. I don't get a tight here. Borrow. We're kicking it. We're going to take this. We're going to take it. We're going to take it. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, okay, we're here. I'm going to take this and rotate it sideways. Okay, that's all I want is sideways. I'm going to put this in here. Okay. I'm going to step over his hips. See, you want to turn it around here? Okay, come, so your head is there. Okay. Have his leg. I turn him sideways. I'm going to step over. Well, he's rotating.
You want me to stay on my side?
Stay on your side.
Okay.
I want to, just tap it causes a problem. Come over. Okay. And I want him on his side. You okay?
Yeah, barely.
Okay. Now, if I just go down to my knee, it's going to take the pressure off. But if I can stay standing and step back, okay. Okay, I've got a reasonable figure 4. If he rolls over onto his stomach, okay, and I stay up here, I may be okay. But from here, he can actually turn your foot to your outward, and he's out.
Right.
Okay. So,
You should
and,
grab that.
yeah, we have to be aware of when you have a person's legs is legs are incredibly strong. And most people have 2 of them. So you have to stay clear of the other one. That's number 1 rule. The second rule is the higher up on the leg you can work, the safer you are. Because here's where most of the power is going to be. Okay, you get above the kneecap, the thigh is very obvious. This is where your strongest muscles in your body are. But if you can get above the knee joint, you're pretty safe in terms of staying away from anything that the leg or foot can do. Okay, very good. Okay, we're out of time here.
There won't be a lot of high falling and flying around the mat, because everybody's slightly sore. So So hey, my topic today is helping new students, okay? And yeah, you guys can have a seat. We'll jump up a few times during this and do some of these things. But I kind of feel bad. I look like Carrot Top here, a comedian with his bag of horns that are also tennis rackets and things. So you'll see some of these things. But the reason I have these types of props is because some of your students are visual learners, right? Some people have trouble remembering when we teach them 5 things at once, right? And if you can give them little mental hangers to hang things on and go, oh, okay, I do this. Oh, I remember, he showed me that with this, right? You give them little things that stick in their head because they're slightly funny or different, and they'll tend to remember things a little bit better, okay? Now, the first part of what I'm going to talk about today, the name for this came in string theory, okay? And what this is really teaching a string of ideas or a string of little exercises to beginning students so that they kind of pick up small pieces of what you're trying to show them, right? So a lot of times when we show a beginning student the hand throw, right? Get the grip off, then step in and push it into him, and then do a 180-degree step, right? Maintain your posture, and all these things are going into this, right? And for a beginning student, they can barely handle doing this, right? This is a foreign concept to them, this whole movement, right? Just the angle, the feel of what that press on the wrist and having it at the right pressure, that's foreign to them, right? That just moving from the hip on this and getting this off of them, that's a movement of itself as well. So we're asking them to do 5 or 6 things all at once, and they're in week 4 of the program. If you can chop that up and feed it to them more slowly, you might be able to have a greater impact of them successfully putting that stuff together. The other piece of this is that along the way of teaching them in components, you're really going to reinforce some of the things. I'll send this to you guys, but I've kind of talked about, or I'm going to be talking about, the technique that we're doing, the string that it's on, and some of the things that you're teaching them, the circle theory, application of torque, using gravity, the 180-degree step, judging range, moving offline, deflection, things such as this. But I'm not going to tell them that's what I'm teaching them, okay? I'm not going to use any of those technical terms. I'm really just going to do some fun exercises with them, and they're not going to know they're really learning kind of the basics of Jiu-Jitsu. If you look at our green belt test, and a little bit of the blue belt test, almost everything we've all been using all weekend is there, okay? From the hand throw, to the hip throw, to blocking, to stepping, all of these types of concepts are right there. If all you learned was how to do all that stuff exceptionally well, and you understood how everything truly worked on those 2 exams, you'd be pretty proficient. Okay, so we can get them to do things well right off the bat. Okay, we'll probably have more success as a longer term person in our class. And the other thing is, the things I'm going to go through, people can be very successful at very easily. Okay, and so I felt by week 5 or 6 that I'd get into the beginning of class, and I'd start to exercise with somebody, and I'd go, okay, what was I doing? Oh, I'm messing it up again, right? If we can give them things that breed success from week 1, the retention of students is probably going to increase a bit, okay? Because the people that come for a week or 2, they go, man, I'm not getting it, it must be me. And they don't grasp that all of us felt totally lost the first month or so we did this. Maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, okay? So this is trying to ameliorate that situation a bit. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is for an elbow roll. Okay, can I borrow you for a second? So let's switch to this direction. What do beginners like to do on an elbow roll, right? So they like to hold it out here like they're rowing a boat, correct? Right? They're rowing the boat and they're not getting anywhere, correct? So, one of the things that I want to do here is I want to have him grab my belt thumb down, okay? Now, all I'm going to start to do, okay, I can put my hand here, I can put it here, whatever. I don't even have to use my hand, but just hold on nice and tight, okay? See, as I start turning, what does he have to do? He has to stay with me, right? So, as we turn around, I'm using my body to help affect this, right? I'm learning that I'm making a smaller circle, he's making a bigger one, okay? And I'm getting the clue that I don't need to take him and effort this like this. If I can merely stick him to my body and start moving around, I'm getting somewhere, right? So, you can have your students grab each other's belts and just go around in a circle like this. They're starting to learn that rotational basis to doing an elbow roll, okay? So the next thing, stay there for a second, we're gonna do something. You'll see a lot of people in beginning karate or other things start with their hands down here, right? They punch out, retract, like this, correct? Okay, in Jiu-Jitsu, application, stick your hand out for a sec here, right? My hand's out here, I retract this in, okay? This is a grab and a pull to my waist. Where do I want his hand to go if I'm doing an elbow roll? Whoop. Right here, right? Now I have this. Now he's attached like he was grabbing my belt. Okay, so most of your students can stand there and do this a few times, right? Get this feeling ingrained of pulling down to my waist and rotating. See how this hand rotates, right? Okay. Now I'm going to add a target, right? Call this your holster if you have a gun, right? But I'm going to use a towel because it's less apt to have me fall on it and hurt myself. Okay, let's switch directions here. So this towel helps me focus on where I'm aiming, okay? There's a golfer, wrote a book a long time ago, his name's Harvey Penick, and it's called Take Dead Aim. And he said, you're much more successful on the golf course if you actually aim at a target, instead of just getting up and going, I want to hit it straight somewhere in that direction, okay? So, the student has now practiced rotation, pulling this back to their waist, and now I'm adding this kind of indicator as a target down here. Stick it to this, right? Bam. I would need to stick this in my holster, okay, on my hip, right? From this point, they've pretty much got the makings of a pretty good elbow roll or rotation, okay? But they want to have this target in here. The other thing that happens to make a good elbow roll, here's the orb of dexterity like Michael was talking about. Mine happen to be balls that you can put in water and make little water balloons out of, okay? They're a little more squishy. If you fall on them, they don't hurt as much as tennis balls, okay? But you can cheat a little bit. If you squish it in your hand, you can tend to actually still grab. So you have to use the honor system a little bit more with these balls. So in any event, what do most students end up doing? Okay? Now I'm trying to get them to use a higher percentage technique. They're going to use their hand, right? I have this much room for success if I use my hand to cup under there, right? If I give them a ball, right? What do they now have to do? They have to use this. What's this? Longer than a foot versus 3 inches? Okay? Much more chance of success. The other thing that this allows me to do, right, is to actually use my body weight as I move this over. Instead of the back shoulder and stuff trying to effort over a bigger dude, okay? Especially if I'm a shorter student, if I'm a younger one, okay? If I get this and I pull him to my waist, instead of pushing here, I can now use this, okay? I'm just going to push the ball down that direction, right? So I'm not pushing here. Once again, most students come to us having spent decades of their life going around, keys in the car, writing things. They're very used to using their hands to do everything. What they're not used to doing is using their body to turn people, using other parts of their body, right? So I'm trying to do these things to help ingrain using the rest of your body to beginners in a small little fashion, right? All right. Have a seat for a sec. Thank you, sir. So that's my chunks of elbow roll and things you can work on them with to get that string of techniques maybe more successfully. You can pick pieces of that if you want. Pick other ones that you may think of, right? So this next one I'm going to talk about is range, okay? So, beginners like to stand in what I call the Shamu splash zone, right? Can I borrow you for a second? My little pipe go here. Alright. We've got an overhead pipe coming into me, okay? So beginners tend to, even though they're trying to block, they'll stand here, right? This is where not to be. You're going to get wet, right? So, I either need to be here, or I need, and this is a natural reaction, this is more natural for a beginner to move here. But what have I done by moving here? I just reset the table and here he comes again. And I've got to take another one, right? So beginners are going to tend to, and even some of your intermediate students, they're going to tend to do this and just collapse in place, right? What do we need to ingrain in them? Get out of this, step into an attack, right? Close that distance, okay? Get out of the splash zone, okay? So, in order to do this, thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll use this fancy thing. You can bring in a fake sword or any other fun things, a swimming noodle or something, okay? So, I'm going to be teaching them to go in and around somebody, right? And we all know what this looks like, right? You come here and you go around, right? In and you go around, right? Pretend this is my sword, okay? Everybody's seen some silly old movies with sword fighting in them and things of that nature, right? The guy goes, ha, right? Well, give them something in their hand so they can really feel that kind of motion, you know, on guard, right? Then say, oh, there's somebody behind you. Oh, where are they at? Right? They're behind you. Okay, now stab him. Okay, back to the other side. All right. Okay? If they're thinking of something other than I'm doing my footwork and make it fun for them, right? They can all imagine, oh, somebody's behind you. Yes, there's somebody behind me, and they'll step 180 degrees, right? That's what most of them do. They get something cooked up here, and they step this far. Right? They only step halfway. Well, if you tell them somebody's behind them, maybe they'll step 180, just naturally, right? And that's what we're trying to do, is get people to do things that they already know how to do. They just get confused when they're in here and we're giving them 20 different directions. All right. My next drill, I can borrow you again. This is one you may or may not have seen already, but I think it's a good one for beginners when we talk about range. Because they're not really going to know how close should I be? Can he get me at this point, right? I think Chris Hendricks did this a little bit ago, but I wanted to at least include it again in this little grouping of things that I'm doing. You have your students, the guy who's going to attack stands right like he's doing. And I'm the student, and I kind of gauge, okay, if he takes one step and swings at me, if I'm here, can he get me, right? So he steps forward and swings, and okay, I've judged it decently, right? I'm a little far away. Okay, now he steps back, and I think, okay, we come to this part again, and I walk out, and I kind of pace myself. Now, okay, if he steps and kicks, right? If he steps and kicks, can he get me? Yes, okay, I'm too close, right? What if he steps and punches me with his left hand? Okay, I judged it decently, I'm right at the edge. But you want your students to practice this. Get them together, then have the one of them move back. Okay, and they have to know if it's a kick or a punch or a swing or something else, right? But they need to start to get an appreciation of where it's safe to be, right? Where does the splash zone start? Okay? Now for some of the more silly props. Okay, so Thomas is at point A. All right. Point B is where he steps to deliver his attack. C is where I'm starting. Okay. We have these couple of points out here. D1 and D2. Right? We also have an E, which is me stepping backwards, right? And we have this cool one called F over here. Alright? Once again, you guys all know this, okay? I'm just trying to use some props. You could also use, if you want your students to be able to step on these and not have paper plates that shift around, you get dots like they use in football practice that they throw on the field. These are little, squishy frisbees. They're cool colors that catch the eye. But people can step on these and they're not going to tweak themselves, okay? But I use plates because I'm just trying to demonstrate this thing here today, okay? So you got to tell the students, your goal is to get to D1 or D2 as he's coming to B, right? So as he steps forward to B, just a roundhouse right punch there. So as you're coming in for that, I step here, correct? Now we have a nice angle, I've stepped inside, okay? His punch is out here, and I can just raise my hands, and here we go, right? On the other hand, if he does a straight-in punch towards my face, I can step here, right? I've made it to D2, right? And once again, I'm pointing at his center line, and he's coming in a slightly different direction. I'm ready to go, right? So now if I were to capture him, or to do any type of throw, okay? Well, here, we'll just use the one we did earlier today, okay? I'll put F over there. The same straight punch comes in. I'm here. Okay, the swordsman is back over this direction. I need to face him, right? I'm going to put it in my holster. My right foot needs to get to F. Whoop. Hey, there we are, right? You put some dots on the ground, and these things, they just have fun stepping towards these different points, okay? And you can even start using this. Oh, get to F, right? Go out to the D's, right? Before he gets to B. But sometimes helping to illustrate this for your students in a very visual manner will help them get the gist of where they need to be moving, okay? Hey, sir? All right. Let's see what my next one is. Aha! I actually found these when I was moving recently. These are just fun little LED lights. You press them and they turn on, right? So, what the heck is he doing with lights in class, right? So, for a lot of us, deflecting and capturing an arm comes pretty naturally, right? When somebody does that punch, our arm comes up and does this. For a beginning student, what do you see a lot of? Catching it like this, right? They just stick their arm out, right? Instead of blending with it and capturing it, they're kind of popping it out like this, okay? Give them a light, give them something, okay? This shines right in their eyes or whatever, but say, look, shine it right up here, okay? We're going to just practice a bit. We're going to practice shining it out at your friend or put it on the wall, right? Get this motion ingrained in what they're doing. Suddenly, when that punch comes in, shine a light on them. Okay? If I have it for the other technique we're doing, right? If I was doing I'll do it this way. We're doing the elbow roll, right? I've stepped in, I've stepped off to that point, boom, my light's shining out. Now I need my light to come down here, right? So you can talk about, where this palm is moving, where this hand should be going, right? And they can visualize with where that light is going, perhaps a little bit. It helps them remember where to be turning their hands, okay? And once again, you can use it in this other hand if you're telling them to do things without using a grip, right? Where is this shining? Helps them just be aware of where their palms are turned, because it is an important thing. boy, next one here. One of the things that students tend not to grasp right off the bat is two-way motion, okay? And this is a big key to doing the wrist lock takedown, all right? How many of us have seen new students? Well, I can borrow you for a second, please. Okay, so the dreaded lapel grab comes out, right? Oh my goodness gracious. They turn this over, and generally they'll turn it over way out here, right? Instead of keeping it in here. Regardless, they'll turn them over, and you'll get this kind of action, right? And you'll get the whole hand over this, and you'll get, hands all over the place and shifting, okay? So, Sensei Kirby has always talked about your guns, right? Where are these guns at, right? And this is that same take dead aim, where I have the little towel here, or my holster. This concept of guns exists in a lot of places, but it's especially helpful with manipulations of the wrist joint, okay? Because it gets students to, they're not really going to understand it yet, but they're going to start to, if I have targets to aim for, I'll then repeat it several times, and that feel of the tension in his wrist when I point at certain areas is going to start to ingrain in my everyday process, right? So as I turn this over in this direction, say, look, Charlie's Angels, whatever. Just shoot right up here at him, okay? Bam, boom, I got him, okay? And even with a gun, go bam, bam, okay? So you go boom, boom, and you're gonna feel that, right? They're gonna feel that pressure, okay? So you can just tell them where to aim, and all of them have played cops and robbers before, okay? Once again, they don't know what they're doing, but they're doing a technique correctly, okay? Thank you, sir.
What age do you guys start?
10.
10th grade, so they have to be...
10 years old.
Oh, 10. See, we don't start our Jiu-Jitsu students till 14. But 10 might not be bad.
Yeah. It's whether they understand the concept of violence and really what they're doing. Right? Great example of two-way motion, right? Which two-way motion is pushing with the top and pulling with the bottom. If I'm going to try and open a jar, one-way motion, it's going to take me quite a while. Right? This is not going to work very well. If I push with my thumb and pull with these fingers, the lid goes right up. Okay? That is one of the basic tenets of Jiu-Jitsu. Two-way motion. Right? If I am going to sweep, I'm not going to go like this, right? I'm instead going to push. I'm going to grip it like this, right? Because I'm pushing to my right with the top hand, and I'm pushing to my left with the bottom hand to get the big stroke, right? What does a baseball player do? He doesn't go woof like that. It's going to go 2 feet. That's a bunt, right? He uses his wrists to generate power. He's pulling with this and pushing with that one with his right hand, okay? So if you can show them some everyday things and say, you don't sweep like that, do you? Well, then why don't you, with your wrist lock, do the same thing? Sweep them out of there, right? Okay. Once again, the visual helps them, right? Something they do every day they can relate to is something that they can do. Okay. All right. So we're going to do, we did this a little bit before. Let me go in for a second. Okay. So we've had them go up here and shoot their guns down that direction, correct? What do most of your beginning students do when they're the uke for this? This comes up, right? Because they go, okay. Partly because this wasn't applied properly, okay? They weren't doing the exact right motion, but also because it's a natural defense for this, okay? So now you simply tell them, instead of shooting that direction, she bends this up, okay? You're going to move out here, and both of these are going to shoot her, boom, okay? Right in the face, bam, okay? Right. So, get this direction, okay? What's another nice one from here? You can even, and this would be probably later in the first session, but if they go for a shoulder lock, right? Let's turn around this direction. So this devolves right here for some reason or another. You enter here, okay? But once again, what do people have problems with a shoulder lock, right? Come out here, it's not working up or back, and they're collapsing around, right? Well, okay, there's two solutions to this, right? Where does my gun need to point, right? I can come down here. Okay, I'm just going to shoot. I'm going to try to shoot the mat right there. Bam. Okay. The other thing is, if you can have them get this thing up high enough, they can also put their gun in their holster. Kapowie, okay? Just put it right back in there, and we can walk all around like this, okay? Once again, there's my holster over there. You can say, remember we have one here? Here's one right here, okay? So that you can start, when you're talking about taking dead aim and holsters and all these funny things, you can relate them to different techniques because they all exist there, right? There are different targets people need to be shooting for. Let me borrow you again. A couple more I want to Okay. She just has her, you can just start with her hand out, okay? Instead of even a hair grab, because a lot of people get confused with the knuckles and the press and everything, right? The same way that we did this towards her, somebody's coming towards your face, you simply grab it again, two-way motion, kaboombo, okay? Shoot her in the chest, okay? Shoot her in the belly, boom. Okay, if you really want to be nasty, shoot the ground, okay? So, but anyway, it gets them from focusing on all this other stuff, and they're going, yeah, shoot the ground, okay? So, all right, thank you. What's my next one here? This is a fun one too. This is another portion of a technique where students tend to not have the right mental image of where they need to go. Give me an overhead, please. This is a simple overhead. So we all know this one, right? We roll up here. And now here comes the issue. They're in here, they're pulling here, and they're moving this around, and they can't quite get this person to tap, right? Well, bust out your 6-shooters again, okay? And I'm just going to turn towards her and shoot her right in the side, right? Bam! Right? Now you won't get all the way there, right? So you got to caution them not to go, yeah! Woo! Okay? But if you give them something to aim for, right? Wow! You're going to get that proper motion, okay? And they're focusing externally. They're having fun. They can visualize what they're supposed to be doing, right? So thank you very much. Okay. The next string, and this is my last string before I get into, actually I think I have one more. Then I'm going to get into a couple other small things. I think we should be right on target here. This is for the hand throw. You know, I talked earlier about the hand throw being a string of 5 or 6 things that we're trying to get them to do all together in their 5th week of class, and sometimes that is one of the ones I've seen students become pretty overwhelmed with. Especially when they do it to everyone in the class in a line, and they're doing it in front of everyone, and they can start getting exasperated a bit. All right. So if I can borrow your video for this one, please. All right. So what I would like to do is let's not confuse everybody with all the other moving parts. Because what is a wrist lock at the end of, a hand throw at the end of the day? It is taking this and angling it that direction, okay? You can do this in many different geometries, spatial relationships, on the ground, on your knees, standing up, okay? It exists. But the main part is to establish what I'm calling the launching pad, okay? Getting to a position where you look like this. Okay? The hand is ready to rock. It's ready to blast off into a hand throw. Okay? The other thing that I want to give them a visual on, sticking with my targeting, okay? They're going to do this, and I want them to think that they're going to elbow him up here, right? So for them, their fingers get in the way, and they start the two-way motion, maybe not ingrained as much. Have them put their hand here on top of their thumb. and they're going to elbow up like this. So they don't want to rotate this. They want to push down and elbow up to his face, okay? Get this motion and that push on it, okay? Boom. And they're not anymore thinking about, I need to push this at an angle. They're now going, okay, I just elbow him. And what happens? My torso has to turn to get my elbow up to his face. And oh, by the way, that helps pull this down and rotate it to the outside, right? By them thinking about this and this, they're actually doing this correctly, okay? And done enough times, they start to ingrain what that feels like, okay? So, now the question is, how do we get to the launch pad? Different techniques to get to that point, because now they know what to do when they get there, right? Now all you're doing is teaching them, okay, I need to arrive back at this point. If I have a grip of this nature, okay, however we end up, I pull him off over here and he pulls back, okay? If he's grabbing onto me and I get this back over here, I just want to get here is the important part, okay? So, I have a few ways of doing this. Let's turn this direction. One of the ones that we classically teach all of our folks is to use your hips, right? Push this in like this, and push them across, right? That one sometimes can be hard for them unless we've taught them that rotation, right? Here's where them understanding using their forearm, using their torso, right, to pull this down. Maybe a simpler one is, if he has a lapel grab on me here, he's a pretty strong guy, and beginners tend to hold on a lot tighter because they don't yet get the concept of kind of, we're practicing one thing. If I wanted to practice the releases 20 times, maybe we could do that, right? But perhaps an easier release is just to push up from underneath, right? Push up from underneath. And he comes back, launch pad, okay? So helping them to just get an easier one, pull this off, launch pad, okay? Give them something that's a little more, has a bigger chance of success to happen, right? This is asking a lot from them to pull to that off balance point, and then this guy has to react in the proper way of pulling back up to get to here. Whereas this one, I kind of control the whole motion myself, right? He doesn't really have to understand. Maybe you're working with another new student who's, might be quitting next week and he doesn't really get it or want to be there. His mom's dropping him off and he hates it, right? So the person practicing in this case has more control over the whole activity rather than needing him to react in a realistic manner, okay? Let's see here.
It's my ringtone. It's on Samsung. That's my ringtone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Thank you.
It's the minion ringtone.
All right, so in terms of the hand throw, I really just wanted to establish breaking it apart into kind of the actual hand manipulation and then however you get there. You guys all know a million ways to get to that point. But letting them know that the throw is one thing, getting there is the other, okay? And this next one is really about giving beginning students a large motor movement, okay? But it also teaches structure, and it's called the wedge, okay? So you can talk to your students about the bow of a ship, right? And what happens to the bow of a ship? The water hits the front of it, it slides along, and comes out the back, right? So if he's punching towards me in a roundhouse motion, and I come here, right? I have my arms like this. I'm not up here like this, where this is going to go whammo, right? They're bent up like this. This is going to ride down like that, okay? This is when I started. Sensei Kirby said the attack is relevant, right? And we even heard it this weekend a little bit. And I used to think that was preposterous, right? Okay. Obviously, if he's kicking me and I decide to do this, then, it's a little different. But if he's coming at me through this window in general, if I just throw my wedge out here, right? So here goes, pow, okay? Think of all the possibilities that exist from this point, okay? whether it be for beginning students here, right? Or here, or here, right? We talked about our counter-assault training, okay? Where we used simple things like eye scratches and whatever. This is a simple entry for students to use, okay? To just get an opening, okay? And they can blossom outwards from it, right? So let me, the other part of this that is you're stealthily teaching to the students is structure, okay? I cannot do this without having this set in place. I need to be in balance. I need to be in a ready position, okay? I need to not have my elbows out here, right? Where that would just push all the energy into me. This is a pretty easy concept for people to grasp, is the bow of a ship, right? Just place it over, shoot it up here, okay? What they're learning, though, is if I take off one side of the ship, the same thing comes at me. What's that look like? There's a block. There's a block with structure, right? This isn't, punch again, please. This is not, ha! Right? Where I'm not in balance, I'm not making a forceful motion, I'm not closing the gap, right? I'm not affecting his balance, right? If instead I do a half a boat, right? He comes again, boom, right? Here I am. I'm in balance, I'm ready for action, okay? So you cannot do that successfully without being in the proper stance with proper structure, okay? And that even goes back to some of the exercises we do with our students as well, where what do you get with most people punching when they come in here, right? The elbow is up here and they're doing this. And you can simply tell them, you know, okay, put your arm up like this, okay? And you can push back on that elbow, right? And it affects them. Push that elbow underneath and have some structure. It's harder to push on this person, right? Because they actually have structure. So if you get them to just do this and say, look, resist what I'm doing, I'm pushing into your body, right? Put this out to the side, whoop, okay? That's going to teach them to punch better, right? To punch with structure instead of this thing, which is going to break their wrist, okay? And this is going to have much less power because it's not from their body, right? But that's all starting with this, okay? Now, if your students understand this, okay, and his arm is out, you've done this, okay? You want to go to Obinagi, okay? You want to get a headlock. You want to do Maki Komi, okay? You can do 100 things from that window, okay? And what's great about that is this forced me to get in close to him, right? When we see a lot of people trying to do these from out here with all this space and they can't reach down, or they're doing this and they're far away from the person, right? If you do this and collapse into them, you can capture this arm, right? Now as I start to turn, he's turning with me, right? Ukiyotoshi, that's a great entry for that. You like that one. Okay? So, that one simple thing can lead to a bunch of concepts, a bunch of entries later on as they progress, right? You can kind of key back to that as a large muscle movement. Okay? Thank you, sir. All right. Now it's ball time. So we're all going to get to do something finally. Okay? I purposefully, once again, allowed you guys to rest because it's the third day and the last class, okay? But now we're going to get up and do some stuff. So, the first one we're going to do is, let me borrow you, Peter, please. You guys held the tennis balls yesterday, so you're used to holding the balls, okay? So we're just, that's bad. So let's turn around, actually. This will be better for the camera this way. Balls in both hands. He's going to do a roundhouse punch, okay? So I'm going to come in here, okay? And all we're going to do is affect this, okay? This shearing motion, right? What is this? Two-way motion, right? I'm pushing with this. I'm pulling with that. I can even shoot my gun at the ground, okay? There are a lot of things that I've already talked about that are happening here as well. I'm stepping in just like I did for the wedge, correct? I gotta get close because I can't do this here. I can't do this out here. When I taught this in class a few weeks ago, some of the students were having trouble with it because they were out here. What did it teach them? Get in closer, okay? Eliminate the space because you can't do it without the space, okay? Or with the space. All right, so grab a couple balls here and we'll give that a shot. Okay.
At least we're not speaking Brian.
There you go. No Boris the Bear today. So the next one I'm going to do is just an Osoto Gari, okay? So he can come in with the same roundhouse punch. I'm going to do the wedge. Here's the wedge, okay? You can either have them wrap and push, okay? More effective, I like, however, is here. This one can now come here. Where does this gun need to shoot to be successful, right? And where should my light be flashing if I had one? At the wall, right? Here, gun to the ground. Okay. This takes him off balance. This light shines on the wall, the gun goes into the ground, okay? So these things start to mix together. Certain concepts students might remember, oh yeah, get my palm out, okay? You just tell them, shine it on the wall, right? Instead of, well, your wrist's got to be at this angle because of this, and key focus, and things like that, right? So, all right, try that one. Let me borrow you, please. Okay. The other thing, okay, aside from the little pieces here, okay, when I come in here, what else do I need to make this work? If he's standing up straight, it's hard, right? And I may not, if he's a lot taller than me, be able to really affect this right off the bat. What if I give him a nice bump? Okay? What if I use my body? Remember we're always talking about hands and people think I'm just doing this all with my hands. Well, it's a contact sport or contact art, right? Get in there, hit him with your chest to his chest, okay? Push him backwards, because what happens when he starts doing this? He's off balance. And when he doesn't have his balance, he's easier to throw, right? All right, so try that. Give him a chest bump when you do it. Keep the balls in your hands, though. We're going to do them one more time. Okay, so here's a little weight on a rope, right? One of the major causes of failure in throws, even at middle and upper ranks, is leakage of power, right? If I try to throw somebody, I've got my hands here on this rope, and I try to throw this over myself, it's going to be really hard. Instead, I move here, it's no problem, okay? What the heck does that have to do with anything? I'll show you. Okay. If I'm trying to throw him here, and I get up in here, and then I turn and he goes nowhere. I'm now grabbing higher on the rope. It's now harder for me because if he has to come a long way, he hasn't moved. I've slid my hands up the rope. Okay? If instead I come up here and we're now joined, I'm grabbing right down next to the weight. So every movement that I make, his body now makes with me. Okay? Grab near the weight, not at the top. Okay? So, what does that have to do with these? I'll show you. We're going to do a hip throw using a knee. No grabbing. In order to do this without grabbing, you must grab near or secure him near the weight. Okay, so he comes with his roundhouse punch. I come up in here, I grab this to myself. Okay? I need to secure this with my grip. And now I can simply turn over here, push him up. Okay? You need to be up there. This will not work here. this will slide out and he will just fall on me. Okay? You can also, if you want, these balls can come underneath here. Okay? Do it from this angle, right? Your gun, again, your light shines on the wall. Your gun's coming up here, right? Bada bing, just like that. Okay? So there are the lights and the guns again, and the balls. So give those couple things a try. See how that feels. Okay? All right. So one of the things we deal with for beginning students as well is their ability to take falls. Okay? We're teaching them falls, but then we're also starting to teach them osotogari, right? Which is kind of a nasty back fall. We're teaching them falling for a hip throw, which can be bad, especially when other students who are just learning the hip throw are flinging you over them, right? We've all been there, right? We've taken some hard landings. Right? How do we, and I think that on occasion scares some people off. They see that, they hit the mat when we're teaching hip throw and they go, I'm out. They don't, it just seems too rough for them, right? Partly because they're being thrown by people who don't know how to control their fall, right? Because we tend to shuttle the beginners to an area together and they all kill each other. Whoever survives gets a green belt and then off they go, right? But there is a potential solution for this, or at least something to make it slightly better. If you can get on your knees for a second. Okay. I don't have to concentrate on footwork anymore. He doesn't have to take a hard fall anymore, right? Yes, the techniques will lock up sooner when we're doing things like hand throw, okay? So you do have to supervise your students more in doing something like this. However, the impact on the body and the focus on what truly makes something work, I don't any longer, if I'm a strong dude, as a white belt, I can't muscle a lot of things on the ground because my base of power is gone, okay? So my legs aren't going to help me throw this guy around. So, if we get into a similar situation like we just were, okay, or he stuck his arm out like this, okay, and I want to pull him down here, I need to do certain things like we're doing, right? You can teach them all these types of things. Essentially, grab him here, push down that way, right? Take your gun and push it down that direction. Go this direction. I'm also retaining him. Okay? We don't have to worry about beginners going up and down and not holding on to their person on the throw. It's a lot easier to throw them right next to you and hold on. What does this do? It ingrains submissions into them, right? Because if I hold on to this, I just tweak over here, I'm ready. You can actually start teaching them a couple things, right? They feel what it's like to be down on the ground with somebody, right? Proper posture. They're not leaning over, falling on top of them, right? What's the other thing that this teaches? If I'm going to do osotogari, I can't push him straight back. It's not going to bend like that, okay? I have to whirlpool him. There it is. Okay? If I twist him in space, he's just going to twist with me. Okay? If I don't pull him off balance, he won't go anywhere. Right? I need to get him twisting and moving off balance. This ingrains within them at an early point in time. If I don't turn him and I just try to pull him towards me, he's not going to fall. You need to get that push and pull, that two-way motion, just like on the peanut butter jar. It's the same thing here. Pulling with this and pushing with that, okay? Push and pull. It's there again. Peanut butter, right? So, the other thing you can do with your students is potentially let them do a slight bit of randori from here, okay? Probably not the first week, right? But it's easier to do randori here because you're not jumping around with their legs and busting each other's knees, okay, and not doing giant falls when somebody knows a little more than the other one or is a lot stronger. You can actually take people with a little bit of an imbalance, and because they're on their knees, they can probably at least keep each other going a bit, okay? So when you're randoring in here, okay, you can scoot around on your knees, but we're a lot closer to the ground, so people feel more free to actually fire off something, right? Because he's not going to get hurt. If we're standing up and I fire off something, I'm going to feel bad, I'm landing on him, right? But if I wrap him up here, and I hold on and we roll forward, that's not going to hurt him.
Right,
If we were standing, that's going to really hurt him. But I can get the feel of, it's like when Michael was talking about Chen Bara, and when you can just whack away at people because you have pool noodles, right? You learn certain things when you're allowed to be a bit freer with your uke, because the fear of injury is not present as much, okay? So you can teach hand threat, all types of things from here that allow them to forget about what their legs are doing, allows them to forget about falling as hard, okay? And focus more on what we're trying to get them to do, okay? So try it with each other for a little bit, do a few techniques, maybe not the randori part, unless you want to, but give it a shot, see what it feels like. So once we've allowed them to learn some things on the ground, and they're feeling decent about that falling motion, right? That slapping on the mat when they're starting to fall during a throw, okay? How do we make the falls a little bit easier on them, even standing up, right? When we teach somebody the drop throw, tai tosh, okay, on the white belt level, and they're going to do it for their green belt exam, okay? Sure, I can teach them this, okay? I can teach them this. Do you think this guy wants to take that fall from a guy who was a white belt? Probably not, right? Okay, perhaps, that's just a suggestion, perhaps if we teach them to simply come under the arm, pull, push, right? Because we've been teaching them that the secret to these throws is this, the peanut butter motion, right? Okay, stick your foot out. This is going to hold him up a bit, right? Here, I can lay him down, I hold him up, right? Easier fall, more repetitions they're willing to do before they start standing around waiting for the next thing, right? Same thing with it. I get him here, okay? And instead of me pinching his skin and my shoulder and everything, I do that. Easier fall for him. So what do we see a lot of beginning students do? They jack somebody's arm up here, it's pinching all this skin, they're almost doing an arm bar sometimes over their shoulder, they're doing this, and the person goes, woo, from, overhead and turtles on the ground, right? Pisses off the white belts, and some of them go, I'm sick of this crap. So, maybe teaching them, you're still teaching them the hip getting in there, you're still teaching them the foot blocking the ankle, you're still teaching them this motion, right? But it's easier on all of the white belts in general if you teach it slightly modified or with a different handle you're using, because they're able to help each other not slam into the mat. Okay? With that, I'm done. That's it.
Thank you.